Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all my review of the pilot episode of the new CW television series Arrow, right here on Otaku Assemble Weekly. And as always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's reviews. So, I just got done watching the first episode of Arrow, which of course is based off of the DC comic book character Green Arrow. And so I'm just going to give you all my general thoughts on the episode overall. First and foremost, I actually liked the pilot, mainly because my expectations were met in the pilot, and this is what I mean. The pilot did not impress me at all, but it didn't really disappoint me either. Now, granted, my expectations for the series were relatively low to begin with, but I like the fact that even though my expectations weren't exceeded, my expectations were met, you know. I didn't think the pilot was very underwhelming. I thought what needed to be in the pilot was in the pilot. I mean, remember, it's just the first episode, and yeah, that was pretty much what I would expect. So, based off of that, yeah, I didn't have a problem with the episode. Well, I'm talking about with the pilot, I mean, as a whole. Okay, so what worked in the pilot, what didn't work in the pilot, what I liked, what I didn't like. Okay, what worked? I like the way they handled I like the way that they established somewhat of the foundation for the character relationships, and this is what I mean. You know, throughout the episode, you know, we have Oliver, you know, coming back to, oh, that's another thing. They changed the name of the city. They changed it from Star City to Starling City. Whatever. Anyway, but we have Oliver returning home, and so, of course, what I liked is the fact how we know the logistics of Oliver's relationship with all these characters. And of course, that's something that they needed to establish early on, because remember, this isn't the main character meeting these new characters for the first time. Oliver knows these people. We don't, though. So we have to learn about these people from Oliver's perspective. So the idea that as soon as we meet them, we know kid sister, best friend, former love interest, douchebag detective that doesn't like him, you know, mom's new husband, guy who used to also work, you know, for the company, you know, bodyguard. Like we know these relationships, and we know their attitude towards Oliver, and we know Oliver's attitude towards them initially. And I like that they were able to. Oh, and also with some of the other characters, the same thing with themselves, you know, with each other and whatnot. So I like that they got that out of the gate from Jump Street. We got that information. That was good. That was good. Funny enough, I actually like all the, you know, parkour. I think I pronounced that right, parkour. I like that the series has that element, because you want to know what's kind of funny? You don't see that with too many superhero adaptations nowadays. You see what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, you know, of course, yeah, you know, oh, a hero, you know, a hero jumping off rooftops and shit. Of course, we've seen that before. Yeah, but not in that parkour-esque style. I mean, hell, even Spider-Man isn't doing some of this shit. You know, he just pretty much kind of climbs and swings. But, you know, Oliver's, you know, jumping over railings and, you know, and hopping off of shit, you know, hopping from one ledge to another ledge to the other ledge. Oh, I do want to make this, though. Okay, that training sequence in the fucking warehouse when Oliver has the pole on the, you know, on the two rods, and he's, you know, jumping. Okay, I'm gonna tell y'all this right now. That's fucking impossible. Okay, no man living can actually complete that whole fucking ladder. In case y'all don't know what I'm talking about, check out Ninja Warrior. You'll see what I mean. That fucking salmon ladder, that's what it's called. It's fucking damn near impossible. Okay, it's hard enough to just do maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 pegs, but a whole goddamn ladder, get the fuck out of here, okay? But you know, you gotta have your your little fantastical and whatnot. One more. This will pretty much kind of close out my thoughts on everything I liked and what I thought worked. Believe it or not, I am intrigued with how they're choosing to handle the Queen family. Because remember, okay, in the comics, more or less, Oliver is an orphan, just like Bruce Wayne, just like Batman is. His parents are killed when he's young. Well, killed. Depending on what story you read, they're killed. The whole conspiracy accident bit, depending on what version you're reading. But long story short, we know Oliver's parents die early on, and it's kind of the same, orphan rich boy shit like Bruce has, like Tony Stark has, same type of thing. Okay, well, I actually like the fact that the series, they kept Oliver's mom alive. Oliver has a kid sister, and they also made a reference, or maybe they're foreshadowing that she might actually take up the role of Speedy later on in the series, because that's already her nickname. Maybe, we don't know. Anywho, I like the fact that members of the Queen family are still around, because what I'm hoping that they do with the series, especially after the big surprise, which it wasn't really that big of a surprise, it was actually pretty fucking obvious, but the unveiling at the end of the episode, I am interested in seeing how this sort of like internal family conflict, this kind of like I guess you could call it corporate hierarchy that exists, that I'm pretty sure is going to also exist within Queen Industries itself, but also in the Queen family. I want to know, I want to see what they do with that, because it's one of the few things, when you take in consideration the heroes that I mentioned earlier, when you're talking about like Green Arrow, Batman, Tony Stark, that's missing from those type of stories. Why? Because all of their family's already dead. So the idea that the show wants to take that route, I actually kind of like. I dig that. However, that sort of thing's been done, not in particular like this type of comic book, but of course that thing's been done in numerous stories, and it will be very easy for that shit to fall into cliche. We'll see. I'll be keeping an eye out to see where it goes. Now, let's talk about the things I didn't like and what I thought didn't work. First and foremost, the writing. Oliver's narrative, I'm sorry, it's weak. It's weak. I mean, it cried, Spider-Man, Daredevil. It was just weak. It was just weak. I thought the series would have been better off without it. Or if the narrative had been done as if like a type of a journal, like a log that Oliver's been keeping since he got back. Or if Oliver's like writing an autobiography and we're getting to that chapter of the book. You see what I'm saying? That dialogue, I mean, that narrative just sucked. It's cliche, it's not engaging. It comes off a little bit arrogant, but it's full of itself. It comes across as if it's not believing what it's saying in itself, and that's a problem. And I don't know if that's part of Stephen Amell's. I don't know if that's because of his delivery. I'm not sure, but it's weak. It's weak. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, some of the dialogue. Some of the dialogue is forced. And not only is it forced, but it's obviously forced. I mean, just like when Detective Lance and Oliver are talking in the nightclub, after Oliver, made it back from across the street, when he switched back into, Oliver Queen, just the fact that the detective would bring up the shit with his daughter, and you're supposed to be looking for a dude that just broke in next door and you saw flee the crime scene into the club, and you're gonna bring up the shit with your daughter? Out of place. That dialogue is out of place. It doesn't belong in that context. It doesn't belong in that scene. It really out of place. And just kind of like the stale awkwardness that some of the other characters, in the manner in which they treat Oliver. Also, some of Oliver's dialogue, like his conversation with, should I call her Laurel or should I call her, fuck it. For the sake of the show, we'll call her Laurel. I don't know why the fuck they insist on using Dinah's middle name, but fuck it, we'll do it anyway. All right, fine. But yeah, like with his conversation with Laurel, it was like his retort at the end of the conversation. The fuck was that about? It's uncharacteristic. It comes across as, he has to push her away so she won't be in danger, like that shit. Yeah, no, doesn't fucking work. It doesn't work for what I think they're trying to do. It just doesn't fucking work. I will say though, my favorite piece of dialogue in the episode is Oliver's conversation with his sister in the club. I love that, and that's probably the relationship that I'm looking forward to the most to see develop as this show goes along, is Oliver's relationship with his sister. I want to see how that works out, because I know a thing or two about little sisters. The shit is a full-time gig. Just saying. It's damn near trying to be a superhero in your own right. Just saying. Now, okay, so last thing. Okay. Now, granted, this show was going to have this problem to begin with. What with it being, the origin and, the young Green Arrow and, But for fuck's sake, does this pilot feel like Batman Begins? I hate to say it, but it did. It just felt so much like Batman Begins. The whole, I'm not going to go into much detail with all the similarities, because I thought they were painfully obvious, and anyone who's seen Batman Begins at least more than once, you watch the pilot, you'll be able to point it out from the opening scene, and there's so many of them. And then when you combine the fact that they're using, they're trying to go for the dark and gritty realistic, and then they're using that fucking dark, that kind of dark bluish green / almost brown filter with the cinematography in the episodes, like, not only does it feel like Batman Begins, but it seems like they tried to make it look like Batman Begins. And this is what we saw in the trailer. So like I said, what I'm talking about now is what I expected. But for fuck's sake, man, I didn't expect him to follow it that much. This might as well be called, Arrow Begins. Cause, yeah. And I think what the show needs to do is it needs to separate itself from that connotation. Okay, you did it for the pilot. I understand why, because you had to get the series picked up by the network. Well, now it's time to, branch off of that and, kind of make a style of your own instead of copying what you have seen be successful in the past. If you don't, you're not taking any creative risks. So, with that being said, like I said, final thoughts on the episode. For the pilot episode, for the first episode, it wasn't bad. It was exactly what I thought it would be. I like the references. I like what they're doing with the Queen family. The potential to open it up into some domestic drama. I like that that because of the way they're handling the Queen family, that option is open to us. I like the fact that the character relationships, the foundations for those got cemented from Jump Street, that we know who's who and their relationship with that character. I'm glad that got out of the way. So now all they have to do is just build on top of it to flesh them out. So that's good. But what I didn't like I said, the narrative stunk. Some of the dialogue was stale and forced. It feels too much like Batman Begins. It's falling a little bit too much into the superhero origin cliches. But like I said, for the pilot, I don't mind it. If this shit continues, you're gonna hear me bring it back up, so get ready for it. But I will be checking the series out, especially since, like I said, I think it's only 13 episodes for the first season. So I'll be checking it out week by week. And who knows, depending on how well the show does and depending on how well this review does, I am highly considering, picking it up weekly. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up my review of the pilot episode for Arrow. I want to thank you all for joining me again this week, and in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on the pilot episode. However, though, I do get the feeling that I'm going to be in the minority about this. I've already seen a few people comment that, oh, it sucked and this, and the other, and I'm like, it really wasn't that bad. I mean, I've seen episodes of Smallville much worse than this pilot. So, and you guys know I love Smallville, but even I'll admit there's been some episodes of Smallville that just fucking sucked compared to this pilot. So the pilot's not that bad. It really isn't. It's really not that bad. The only way I can see somebody honestly, like just straight out, flat out hating this pilot is if your expectations were too high going in. And like I said, mine were pretty damn low to begin with. So maybe that's why I didn't think it was that bad. Anywho, but keep an eye out Friday for the discussion of the week. And I think what's the topic this week? It's free will versus predestination. And then Sunday will be my Comic Book Hollywood movie review of Spider-Man 2. So with that being said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. I'm signing off, and until next time, peace.